A debenture includes debenture stock, bonds, and any other securities of a company, whether constitute a charge on the assets or not. Some companies, whether private or public, issue debentures, which may be issued at par, at a premium, or at a discount. Remember, we are talking about debt financing for the company, how to raise money to finance the company's operations. So debentures are what you will raise, you will float out there to the public so that they're able to buy and you get the money as the company. And we have said that they may be issued at par, at a premium, or at a discount, either privately or through prospectuses. So the legal requirements are those used in the issue and allotment of shares, again, except that the 5% cash of nominal capital, there is no 5% cash of nominal capital. There's legally no restriction on the company's power to purchase its own shares. You remember we had said a company is legally not allowed to purchase its own shares. It can't reduce the share capital. It can't reduce what is available to a creditor as a guarantee that they'll be able to pay up. We also talked about the instances where this happens. We had talked about the 5%. No, that was in share capital, where we talked about how you can reduce the paid up shares. If you have 1 million of 100,000, only 5% is paid up. So you reduce it to be 2.5%. But that is within the articles and within the company law. So for debentures, there's no restriction. The company can buy back its own debentures, and there's also no restriction on the 5% rule, where you're not allowed to go beyond that. So some of the characteristics is that each debenture is numbered. So each that is issued out to the public, either through a prospectus or privately, will be numbered, and each contains a printed statement of the terms and conditions. That is the rate of interest, the time of payment of interest, the security against which the debenture is issued, and what steps the debenture holder can take in case of non-payment of his dues. You remember, this is a company taking part of its assets and using that as a security to raise funds. You can think of it this way: when you want to get a loan and you have a property or you have your car logbook, you will take that to the bank. You take your title deed to the bank. The bank holds that and gives you money as security. In the same way, the company will pick its assets, attach that asset to the public to raise funds, and a document will be printed that shows, one, the security itself, the rate of interest, the time of payment of interest, and what steps the person who gives out this money, should the company not be able to pay, then what can you do as a debenture holder to pay, to secure your money? So it creates a floating charge on the assets of the company that is enforceable upon non-payment of the interest or principal on the due dates. A floating charge is not fixed on any particular asset per se. So when money is raised, you have a group of assets. any of those assets, once you are unable to pay, any of these assets can be sold off to pay this debenture holder, the one who gave you the money. It may also create a fixed charge. And what we mean by a fixed charge, it identifies a singular particular asset. If it's a piece of land, that particular LR number will be committed to the debenture. That particular lorry, the logbook of that lorry, will be used to secure that debenture. A floating charge is where you have a fleet of these lorries and any can be used to pay off this debt. So another characteristic is that debenture holders are given the right to appoint a receiver in case of non-fulfillment of the terms of the debentures by the company. Again, this will be on the terms and agreement, terms and conditions that both the company and the debenture holder have agreed on. And sometimes again, debentures are issued by which trustees are appointed to whom some or all of the properties of the company are transferred by way of security for the debenture holder. So a trust deed again will have the terms and conditions. It will list to be recovered to pay off any debt that is outstanding. So we have classes of debentures and they can be categorized as secured, and these are secured by some charge on the property, and it may be fixed or floating, and you will have that fixed debenture, floating charge debenture. We have unsecured or naked. They are not secured by any charge on the assets of the company. And these ones are just like any ordinary unsecured creditors of the company. You can use the example of where some of these firms that give loans to individuals, and they say that if you have a payslip, you are able to get an instant loan. Ideally, that payslip cannot be attached to pay off your debt should you default. So it is called an unsecured loan. Same would happen. There is nothing that can be attached past. You put a title deed, give out a logbook, charge is placed such that you're not able to transfer, you're not able to sell off until you pay off what is owed, and you can only get the difference of the money you are advanced and the money that the sale proceeds will have. We also have a registered debenture, and these are payable to registered holders. A registered holder is one whose name appears both on the debenture certificate and in the company's register of debentures required to be maintained by the company. He can transfer this debenture, but again, the transfer has to be registered. The shareholders have a register. Same thing with the debentures. And this is why we are saying they're registered. And this register is again available for perusal at normal business working hours. Again, the register of companies is given this register, and where you as an individual decides to transfer, the register will be updated. We also have redeemable debentures, and these provide for the payment of the principal sum on a specified date or on demand or notice. And they can be issued after redemption in accordance with the provisions of the Articles of Association. Again, the articles will determine whether you can be able to have this for the company. And they have that specified date, or they on demand that your debt is due. So once you're able to, they are redeemed by the company, they can again be issued. We have irredeemable or perpetual debentures. And in this case, the company does not fix a date by which they should be redeemed, and the holder of such a debenture cannot demand payment from the company as long as it's a going concern. So these are normally payable upon winding up or some serious default by the company. And the issue between between redeemable and irredeemable have no date. So as long as the company is making profits, as long as the company is seen to be able to operate in the nearby future, then you cannot redeem them. But once the company goes into debt, that is where you call and you redeem your debentures. We have bearer or unregistered debentures. They are payable to a bearer, and they're regarded as compatible instruments and are transferable by delivery. And this is where we were also talking about, you give out a blank share certificate. So you as Emanuela, once you accept it and present it, you're the bona fide owner. So this is what we mean. It has no one's name on it, and it is transferable. We do a business transaction. You pay me by virtue of the debenture of a different company. So once I have that in my possession, I then can present it, and I am assumed to be the bona fide owner. So the value is not affected by the defect of title of the previous holders. If the person who had transferred to me had issues with the company, my value is not affected by those prior issues. We have convertible debentures, and this is where these terms and conditions we talked about, they contain an option enabling this debenture holder to convert his debt at a time stated into ordinary or preference shares of the company at a stated rate of exchange. And if this holder exercises the right, you cease to be a lender and you become a member instead. So where you have provided funds to a company and you are given a convertible debenture, and you choose to exercise that right, that you convert this debt into either ordinary or preference shares, the switch becomes that you're no longer, you become a shareholder, you become a member. You're no longer a creditor to this company. We also have a debenture stock, and this is the borrowed capital, the amount of money that the company has received as the funds. You convert it into one mass. And the difference between a debenture and debenture stock is that the debenture stock can be transferred in bits, and it's not in any fixed amount. It's like a share and a stock. You remember we said a share cannot be transferred in half. You can only transfer the whole share. But stock can be in different denominations, and you can do even half of that. So what are the distinctions between debentures and shares? One is ownership. A shareholder is you own part according to the number of shares paid up. If today there are shares of probably KCB and you own 5,000 shares, you are part owner of KCB to the extent of the shares you have and again paid. But a debenture holder is only a creditor. There is no ownership. They do not claim to own any part of that company. They only advanced funds. In terms of security, a share is ownership usually non-repairable during the lifetime of the company, but a debenture, being a creditor, will be repaid during the lifetime of the company. You see, the debt has to be paid whether or not the company is a going concern. So when the company ceases to operate, the creditors will line up, and when bankruptcy is declared, the assets will be sold off and the creditors will be paid first. Whatever you may have invested in may or may not be recoverable. But for the debenture holder, that whatever he has advanced is repayable in that lifetime of that company. We talk about income, and income on debentures is fixed, and it is certain whether or not a company has made profits. We talk about the terms and conditions. There's an interest rate, there's a date of payment. So if you had agreed on the 15th of every month that you pay a sum of, you had borrowed 10 million at an interest rate of 5%, and the repayment date is on the 15th of every month, whether or not the company has made a profit, that amount is due and it will be paid. Failure to which you attract more penalties and interests. But for a shareholder, you have to wait until the company has surplus profits that it has declared for this year. We have been able to pay off debts. We have amassed this amount of money, and what you can only get is a dividend. And where the company does not declare that it has surplus profits, it continues up until it's able to declare dividends. For a debenture holder, the income is guaranteed. For a shareholder, the income is not guaranteed. And again, for a shareholder, you remember we said the directors propose that we can convert the surplus profits into dividends or reinvest them. For a debenture holder, that option is not given. Their income must be earned. So we talk about the rights. So a shareholder has rights seen in the Articles of Association and in the Companies Act. And the rights include rights to receive the notice of a general meeting, right to vote, entitled to shareholders. Debenture holders are not owners, are not members. We have shown that they have no ownership, so they may not have the same rights. While creditors do have meetings, the general meetings are not for creditors or, so to speak, outsiders. And we talk of purchase. A company may purchase its own debentures, but the company may not purchase its shares. It's not allowed by the Companies Act to reduce its share capital. But where the company has operated on profits, it can purchase its debt to reduce it. And the Act allows it. The terms and conditions would also be such that the company is allowed to do that. So in case of winding up, same as with income, debenture holders rank first. You as a shareholder, you can only obtain any benefit once all the creditors have been paid up. And again, the different classes of shareholders that are ranked. So in the case of a winding up, again, debenture holders are better placed than you, the shareholders. So we talk about debenture trust deed. And this is where we said it contains the terms and conditions in details. And it's for safeguarding the interest of debenture holders. It basically contains the appointment of a trustee for prospective debenture stockholders. And the first trustee is normally appointed by the company. And any replacement is to be appointed by the debenture stockholder. The trustee is normally a bank, an insurance company, or any other institution. We again have the date, the period of payment, it's specified, as well as the rate of interest and the interest payment dates. These are the terms and conditions that both parties agree on. And where the debenture stock is secured, the deed creates a charge over the assets of the company, and the trustee is authorized to enforce the security in case of default. Where we were saying, once a charge is formed, whatever you provided as security, and you default, the debenture trust deed enables the trustee to sell off to recover what was issued to you. So this trust deed has the company entering into various covenants, key among them that it will not, one, it will insure its property. Whatever has been used to secure the debt, part of what is written in that trust deed is that insurance is there. So even if the asset is destroyed, you will be compensated so that you're able to pay off your debts. And you must not again borrow in excess of what you can afford to pay off. These are parts of the covenants in the debenture trust deed. So again, we will have a register. We will also have a meeting of debenture stockholders, which will keep the debenture holders in the loop. How is the company performing? Are we safe now that we have guaranteed money to this company? Are they keeping their end of the trust deed? Is the insurance up to date? Are they being audited? Are they providing the proper books of accounts? So all these issues would be provided for in the trust deed. So what are the advantages of a debenture? It's easily traded. We have said, one, the company can purchase it. You can transfer it if it's a bearer debenture. It is not strict as to how it is transferred from one person to the next. Number two, the terms set out in this trust deed, they're clear and specific. So each party is certain of its obligations. What we have said, the company must insure, the company must pay the interest on time, the company must make the principal payments. It makes it easy when you know what you're getting yourself into. Then number three, while the debenture holder has that security, their assets attached to this debt that have been given to the company. Therefore, you are sure if the company is wound up, something will be sold off to recover your debt. Again, we talk about the taxable benefits. You see, dividends are taxed withholding tax, but interest payable on debenture stock is deductible. You get a tax advantage when you are a debenture holder that a shareholder will not get. You remember we talked about you as a shareholder, when you receive dividends, you get the number of shares, the dividend declared, the tax withheld that is remitted, then the check you get is net of all taxes, net of all commissions. So for a debenture holder, this is a tax gain for him. There are tax benefits in being debenture holders. And again, we talked about the restrictions of a company purchasing their own shares. Debentures there are no such restrictions. And they can be issued at a discount. They do not dilute the ownership. Therefore, they are more flexible. That aspect of debt is more flexible. The company will enter into agreements that favor it in terms of how much money is needed, how much money can be raised. But as with anything that has advantages, we also have disadvantages. And this is in thinking of the company. So the company may have to offer a relatively high rate of interest in order to make their debentures attractive. And this normally applies in times of inflation, where the real value of fixed interest payment will decline. The company suffers to ensure that these debentures are attractive. And this, you see, when the inflation is high, the purchasing power is low. The operations of the company are not as expected. They do not have sufficient funds to meet their goals and the expenditure. So a high rate of interest is offered, but this high rate of interest may not reflect of what you're offering. We also have another disadvantage, whereby the fact that the payment is mandatory and not discretionary, the company, in getting this debt, it must be sure it can meet these obligations. As much as it would need money that issuing debentures would give them, are they able to pay the principal amount? Are they able to repay the interest rates? Are they able to meet the financing cost of this debt that they have incurred? Debenture holders also, there are remedies when the company is unable to pay, include the appointment of a liquidator or a receiver. And you see, essentially, when a receiver is appointed, you no longer have control. And the work of a liquidator or a receiver is to wind up and pay off debts. The company may want to continue. If it's not able to meet its obligations, debenture holders have a meeting and they agree, if the company is not able to pay us as we expect, then let us take them to court. Let them be declared bankrupt. Let a receiver or liquidator be appointed to wind up this company. And in doing so, the operations of the day-to-day, the operations basically come to a halt to just ensure the bare minimum is met, the debts are paid. We also talk about crystallization of a floating charge. We had said the debentures are normally a floating charge. It's not attached to a fixed asset. It's attached to a fleet of cars probably, or that land. But once it crystallizes, where crystallization is, you are unable to pay. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Once you are unable to pay, a floating charge crystallizes and it is attached to a particular asset. Talk of that title deed that had been issued to secure me a lot of debt. It no longer becomes a floating charge. It is not a matter of may or may not. It's a matter of that land being sold off. It's a matter of that land being sold off to recover these debts. And it is swift. Given that the security can often be over the trading assets, if the company had that trailer for distributing maybe bales of unga, and the debt is cleared off by selling off these trailers, the operations of the company come to a halt. And this is what we are saying. Once the floating charge crystallizes, it's attached to that particular asset, it will affect the day-to-day running of the company, and they may not be able to meet their the obligations, other obligations apart from this particular debt that they have cleared out. And lastly, where interest payments results in the cost of dividend yield, this may lead to pressure from shareholders and cause share prices to fall. Interest will be paid before any amount is declared. And these are costs that will be covered by the company when all these costs are factored in. And the shareholders see that every other time the directors call us to a meeting and they keep on telling us, no, we are not trading profitably because we are paying off loans. Therefore, we don't have any amount that is surplus to give you as dividends. You see, if the shares that I own are not giving me any monetary benefit, I will sell them out. I'll want to recover my money when I can. When I go to 2 or 3 meetings and realize no dividend being, yes, the company is trading, but it's only trading to pay off the creditors, then it stops making sense to me. So I sell the shares. The more people sell the shares, the more available they are, the share prices drop drastically. We talk of demand and supply. Supply overruns demand. Where something is no longer wanted, the price automatically goes down. And this is a disadvantage of having that debt capital, where the focus, rightfully as it should be, is repayment of debt at the expense of the shareholders. There's no income for the shareholders. If there's no more income, then the shareholders stops the benefit of being members of that company. And once the share price again starts to fall, the company has, the creditors will be worried because the guarantee they had when they came that this company has this number of shares fully paid up. Once that share price starts to fall, it causes jitters across all board. And it's never a good sign for the company. So that is a disadvantage of issuing debt.